Folks, welcome to 406 Regen. Today the wind's blowing pretty hard and I thought I'd introduce myself and give a little backstory on the place. So, you know who's behind the camera, I guess. In front of it now, I guess. I'm gonna try this out. My name is Matthew. Grew up here in central Montana. Whole life, this farm has been on the place since 1911. Was farm ground, so there's no fencing out back on the majority of the acres. There's no fences, perimeter or otherwise. Few neighbors have some fences here and there, perimeter, but none we're going to be able to use for our sheep. Which is why I'm looking at the timeless fence. We're going to be putting in all high tensile on the place, running our flock, hoping to get up to that 800 ewes to support this place, lease some ground, bump that number up to 1200. That's the goal for the next 5 or 7 years. I'd like to hit that number out here. Hopefully quicker, maybe not. My brother and I, we run the place. We've been trucking for the last 10 years, over the road, locally. We have our semis. That's last 3 years been kind of tough. This drought, we just switched to local, and this drought hit. The drought, the shutdowns, all that kind of made us reevaluate what we're doing. So, after watching Greg Judy and Jim Garish and all those graziers that advocate for trying out sheep, which I grew up reading Western books, a cowboy way. I mean, I laugh. It kind of bites me in the butt. It's why you should never say never. I said there'd never be sheep on this place. I'd never own a sheep, never touch a sheep, never look at a sheep. There was no sheep. There was no want or even thought of sheep in my brain, other than the fact I didn't want them anywhere around. Even though this was old sheep country out and around here. Grew up, the majority of the people, they all went to cow-calf. Like I said, grew up reading Western books. You always hear about the sheep, how they just destroy land, and they're just a parasite on the ground, I guess. Grew up thinking that kind of a lot growing up. But it wasn't until after I got looking into this regenerative stuff and went to ranching for profit school, and trying to figure out how my brother and I are going to make this place that's been in CRP for the last, my whole life. Yeah, majority. Let's say take 8 years off my life. Say last 25 years. Yeah, 30. The place has been on CRP. It wasn't farmed. My brother, when I was about 13, we started haying it. All the local farmers, well, it's just free resource grass. Just go hay it. So, pulled out an old John Deere 800 swather, open station, slow as slow can be. Sat right on the motor, so if it was 100 degrees out, you was cooking on that thing. Grew up running that for the summer. Put up hay, tried to sell it to try to bring in some income from the place. After, when CRP ran out, we took it out of that program. We knew that wasn't doing nothing for the place, and if we were going to make it go, we couldn't have it in that program. So, listen to the local farmers, ranchers, just hay it. Out here, it's dry land. We don't have no irrigation. Didn't really look into it besides just haying it. So we never put no fertilizers on it. We just mined the ground. Which, after it had been in CRP, the CRP doesn't, the brome grass mix and stuff that was, I'm not sure if it was required when they were in that program. It was the mix that you got when you got in that program. It does absolutely nothing for the soil and ground. They were supposed to bring in animals. The birds, they make nests in it, but there's nothing for them to eat in it. So you still going, your wildlife is still flying into your chemical treated fields and sprayed however many times the fields and eating their food and coming back and nesting on this ground. And this summer I'll take you to a couple of coulees out back. We haven't, my whole life, we've never grazed an animal out there, so it's all just been wildlife, and you can see that the ground is just gone. Even the coulees, it's got such thick mat because there's no organisms and nothing eating that thatch out. So the place is small enough, obviously grown up. We wanted cow-calf pair. Got a little older. He's like, well, cow-calf isn't really going to work. I'm going to look into, if I'm going to have cows and we can only have 80 head of cows, well, it needs to be high-quality cows. So we started, just doing research on registered, bulls, just the high-end quality, top-shelf kind of cows is what I thought. Well, if we're going to do cows, that's what we have to graze. And out here, that wouldn't work for us. We decided we went to ranching with profit. This is now this. Let's see. Well, let me backtrack here. First started hearing about regenerative ag about 4 years ago, while I was in the midst of plowing under a couple of fields, hay fields that had no production. So you talk to hay people, well, your alfalfa's not growing, you need to rip it out, plant new. Had a few weeds in there we didn't want to sell to people, and we didn't want to spray. This place hasn't had chemicals sprayed on it in large quantities. There might have been some spot spraying here and there on thistle patches in the coulees and stuff, but over the whole place hasn't had chemicals put on it to that extent to where that hurt anything. We didn't want to do that for the ground. We knew that much. We didn't want to spray it out and have all that on the ground. So our other option was to work it up, which we did. The first I came across Working Cows podcast as I was riding in the tractor. After kind of in the winter, kind of stumbled on to Gabe Brown and Greg Judy, and got that idea kind of kicking in the brain. That spring, because we'd worked up the fall, so that spring you're back out in the field, you're working it, so it's working it again. Came across the Working Cows podcast, which is just a very good wealth of information on there. With Nicole Masters was the guest speaker at that time. She happens to live now in Montana, which is awesome, and she also happened to be doing a show a month away after I looked into her website and stuff. She's doing a show a month after I heard the first podcast. So we went to her, and that was the first event that we went to trying to learn this stuff. After that, it was listening to as many podcasts as I can, even though I was still on that tractor, having to do that and finish it up, knowing it's wrong. I couldn't just leave it like it was. Just committed to finishing off what it was, get it planted. About that time, the drought starts, nothing grows. We got some stuff is kind of came up, but it's been really slow. So that summer, went to a couple events, listened to a lot of podcasts. That winter was, if I was in the house, it was webinars and all as much as I can watch on trying to learn this stuff. I'll be honest with you, Nicole, there's people out there, it's kind of like that mechanical mindset. There's people that'll look at a vehicle, it's a good vehicle, it'll get me from point A to point B. That's what I got, that's the steps I got to take to get from here to there. That's kind of what I need to know. There's other people that say, no, I want to know how the motor works, why they need to know everything about it. My brother's that way. He's a mechanic. He has to know everything about it. My brain don't quite work to that depth, I guess, on that stuff. Uh, I'm good with just kind of like following the guidelines. This is what these guys are doing. It's working. These is what these are doing. It's working. I'm gonna do it this way, and you know, enough people have done it around the world. Enough people have done the rotational grazing and the soil health and all that I don't necessarily need to know why the organisms are doing what they're doing and what organisms are in the ground. I know it's kind of like I know if we build it, they'll come. It, that's how it'll be. But so this is just kind of a quick introduction to the place and me. First time putting face on camera. So place is from 1911, homestead out here. Brother and I grew up on the place. It was in CRP until I was about 14. 13, 14. Started running the swather. He's ran the baler. And that's where it got until, about 4 years ago when we got to learn this. Unfortunately, we still will have to put up some hay on certain sections, but I am definitely taking the steps to regen the place and get it going. So, be great if you'd come along for your experience. That's kind of why I started YouTube, was to be able to help people out, learn from people, show people how I'm doing with their ideas, and maybe help teach people. Just to get that information out there. I want to get more regen stuff out there as best I can. I'm not going to be doing it perfect, because I really don't know. Is there necessarily a perfect way to do it? Every place is a little bit different. Every area, every ground's a little bit different. It's better off, it's worse off. It's a little different clays, a little different soil types. So, some places take longer, slower. I don't know if there's necessarily a perfect way to do it, but I'm going to be showing what I'm doing on the place to try to improve it. And yeah, that'll be kind of the introduction, I guess. So thanks for watching. If you want to hang around and watch the series go on, that'd be great. Thank you.